Welcome to the Go Grava channel. And today we have a really special project that we're doing that I'm super excited about. We're going to take a Surly disc trucker from a customer that's using an internal Alfine 11-speed Shimano hub in the backside, and we're going to be converted it to a Gates belt drive system. And the reason I'm excited about this is because I've been studying and looking at and drooling over Gates belt drive systems for like the last decade, and now somebody's actually paying me to do it for them. So let's take a look at the frame that we're going to be using today and converting over is a Marino and co-branded Grava frame. Right here we have the dropouts and the actual cutout in the back of this frame so we can easily hook up the Gates belt drive system. So it takes us about 4 months working with the customer and Marino at Lima, Peru, so he can go ahead and build this exact custom frame for the customer. And guess what? The cost of this frame and the fork, which we have here, $750. That's right, folks. You can get a Surly disc trucker frame right now anywhere from $630 to $699, but we can do it at Go Grava as a custom order for about $750. Reutilize as many of the pieces as we can as we're converting this system over. And it's just something I'm really excited about. So we got the belt drive system here that we're putting on. They also wanted a thud buster seat post from Cane Creek, which we have. And we're going to be putting this all together. So if anybody out there is like interested in doing a project like this with Go Grava, basically you just email support@gograva.com. I'm only doing about 1, maybe 2 projects a month for this custom work. And then if you wanted to reuse some of your parts, you could just ship us the bike. We'd put it all together, customize it, and then box it up and ship it back to you. And yeah, so let's go ahead and strip down that Surly disc trucker and see how much of those parts we can actually use. So cut scene to stripping the bike. So now all the stripping's done. We got it's in here in a bucket, and we can apart the Alfine system. As you can see here, the regular geared system that was sitting here for the single speed setup is on the back, and we have a new Gates belt gear set that I'll show you now. Right there that Aaron has in his hands, and yeah. And that is the one that's going to be replacing this system here. And then we've taken all the components and pieces off of our Shimano Alfine system, and we're ready to install. So when purchasing this, here's the old gear set. And you can see it has these 3 lobes right here for the Alfine system. And then also those 3 lobes match up right there to the new Gates belt drive system. And that's kind of what you're shopping for when you're looking for it, is these 3 lobe systems right here that we're going to go ahead and install on the back wheel. All right, so that's just a cover.
Yeah, because these little prongs here are
There we go. All right, so here Aaron's going to use the pliers to get these little
fingers,
little hooks. Yeah, little finger hooks or whatever they are. So we get it all the way back and click it into place. And so these little guys here is what it hooks into.
I'm sure there's probably a tool for this,
Yeah, we're missing the tool.
like usual. Now that's on.
Yep, got it all the way on. All right, Aaron, let's go ahead and get the rest of those pieces together. And the Alpine 11 hub, man, is complex, so you're gonna have to walk us through it here.
All right, so we have the parts laid out here. You can move
Yep,
that
let's take a
back
look at the
little
parts. Get all this back together.
bit. Yeah. Let me get my thinking cap on. All right. First thing I'm gonna do, actually no. First thing I'm gonna do is put the snap ring on to hold that gear in place.
All right, let me zoom in so people can see better here. So I've got the snap ring. Yep, and that locks the.
Yeah, it fits down in this little groove here
Yep.
to hold this into place. Sometimes they're a little bit tricky. But
There we go.
Yep.
So that snap ring is in. There we go. Piece of cake.
So now put that on. Look at this cover.
Oh,
Oh,
oh.
down in the comments, who's that from? Then I put this little
Yep,
cover
dust
on.
wiper.
Yeah. One of them thingamajingers. All right, so now we're gonna take.
Yeah, so if you get that complex piece apart, like you're gonna have to like pay attention here. I'm gonna kind of get close while you work,
All right.
so you can see.
Put the gear on. Now you have to, whenever you put this gear on, you have to make sure with this here, this only fits in one way. Like you see here, it's floating on top
Yep.
of the slots. If you flip it over, then, yeah, once I can get it in there,
Yep,
it
got
fits
it.
in it. So it only goes one way. So you take these and these the little nipples sticking up there, that's what goes in those little grooves. And then you take,
Parts.
I don't even know the names of these, so
We don't know the names, but we have the exploded diagram
yeah.
that we look at.
Then this
'Cause
piece
it's a
goes
lot.
on top.
There's a rubber piece that's got to go in
This
here.
rubber piece is a seal that goes on top of there, and you want to put it in with the left side with this little notch.
Yep.
So you have to put it down, and I use like a little pick tool to kind of
Press it in.
press it in from the back. And then,
Yep, I'll back off and let you work.
it's just to help get that seated in there. And I'll take a look at it now. That's nice and
Yep,
pushed
seated
in there. Then you take your cover here, and your cover has 3 holes that line up with these 3 little nipples sticking out, and it only goes one way. So this is the wrong way. So you see it doesn't fit on
Yeah,
there.
it won't line up.
The way I look at it too is like the flat edge. That flat edge goes down because that's what pushes that seal in there, and this is more like a rounded edge. So you put that on, and it locks right into those nipples there.
Yep.
And then you take your lock nut and you put your little grooves down because that's what
lock everything in place.
that's what grips onto that piece there. And this is a 17 millimeter. You want to use
Use cone wrench for that.
yeah. Well, you can use a cone wrench, but I like using the sitting area. I like using spanner wrenches. You might want to hold this little shield down so it doesn't jump out of place. Your little shield that you just put on. You take that, you take your 17, you tighten that down.
So you hear it click.
Then you take your shifting mechanism and you line up, you see your red here.
Yep, there's a red up top.
Yep, red in the bottom. So that lines up with these. The two reds indicate where your little grooves are.
Yep.
So you hold that there, and then this piece, your shifter, you just rotate it until it
Clicks in.
It clicks in, and that fits that gear. Then you take your lock. You line up your yellow marks on the side. Push it down, push it all together, and lock it.
It's locked in place, and there we go.
And then you do your whatever these things are called.
Yeah, we'll leave those for when we install the wheel.
Yeah, I'm just putting everything back on there.
All right, so that's the Shimano Alfine 11-speed hub where we put the Gates belt drive gear system on. When you take that apart, you got to be really, really careful. Remember where all those pieces go. You can find the Shimano website, the documents of the exploded view or how each piece goes on, but the directions on there aren't that great, and it's almost like a puzzle. You got to kind of figure it out, which direction things go. So next up, probably we'll leave the wheel just like this, and let's just go ahead and get the bottom bracket bearings in and the headset. So next step. All right, so we're gonna just take our headsets. This is the Cane Creek 110 Hellbender in here. Just apply some grease, and we're just using this, and we'll clean it up too, but I use this grease just to help keep the elements out. It's just a little protective element inside the frame. And then we'll end up using a special press Aaron has. Should we press this all together at the same time or just one at a time? How do you want to do it?
Just one.
All right, we'll do one. So Aaron, get your press out.
Or you can turn the top, whichever.
Turn the top.
Easy.
Yeah.
It'll bottom out.
And voila, some grease came out. We'll have to clean that up, but we got the bearings on. And so basically we've got a seat, the crown race on the fork. We're gonna seat that. We'll get that in there. We'll drive the star nut in, and then we'll put in the bearings on the bottom bracket.
Ta-da.
You gotta pop that crown race on. Boom.
So you want to put that? Oh, yeah.
Seat the crown race.
Yeah. That's where you get this tool.
You need the adapter.
I have them here.
Set. And just like that. Ooh. Ah.
It's
nice and smooth.
And you put the top on.
Ooh, temporarily hold it in place. This individual wants it much higher, so we're going to put a gooseneck on the top. And right here, we'll have to add the gooseneck, and because they want their whole system set up higher. And this is totally custom. So let's just put the bottom bracket bearings in. Yep, use lots of anti-seize grease.
It actually comes pre-installed with some too.
All right, so we just used some anti-seize grease, but I'm going to start on the left side. Just hand tighten. I already put anti-seize grease in here, and then
Always good till you hear that click.
big click,
Yeah,
big click.
going
So we'll
reverse.
figure out the spacers after we get this installed to figure out the actual belt chain line and how many spacers we may need in between the drive side here, the belt, and where it's at in the rear.
The belt chain line.
Yeah, the belt chain. Yeah, the belt chain line. The belt line.
Yeah.
The belt chain line or the belt line? The belt line.
The chain line for the belt.
Yeah, the belt line. Because it's important. It's got to be straight. So after we did that, now we just take, this is the customer's old FSA crankset with the chain ring. It's a 5-bolt system. We'll just take this off, clean it up, and then we're going to ask them too if they want to use the old FSA and their pedals, or if they want to buy new ones. Again, it's up to them. We can reuse everything if they're okay with little scuff marks and stuff, or we can just replace everything new if they want. But yeah, let's use the power of magic, of editing magic, and pop. Boom, it's done. So there it is. We got our Gates belt on our crank drive. So next, I'm just going to put the wheel and the belt and the crank on and do some measurements. Just make sure we got that center line for the belt drive. And after that, seat, stem, handlebars, all those fancy things, putting the bike together, and yeah, let's roll. All right, so we had the belt drive system. So I guess I'm a little out of date with my Gates system. I haven't used a CDX belt before, which has a ridge in there, which helps align it. So you're really less concerned about complete alignment for your 2 drive systems. So the one thing we did notice is that when we put this gear on here, we actually put it too far back. It's actually, we had to pull it forward a bit more. And this right here may be unnecessary that we had on there from the original single speed system. So Aaron's gonna get this back on, and then we're gonna refit it again and check the alignment. But yeah, I think this is why probably Gates has, when you look at the Alfine 11 hub, the CDX belt in there is the only belt you can use because the CDX belt, if you look here at it, oh, let me get it through the little cut in the frame. But it's got this ridge line right here in the middle, which corresponds to the gear, the ridge line in the gears that help it keep it straight, so you're less concerned about it being completely.
I think it also helps keep the belt on there too, since you don't have all that extra.
Yep, and it helps keep that belt on right here, so if you don't have to be completely aligned, because completely aligning this belt completely straight, we wouldn't work with the Alfine 11 system if we had a normal Gates belt drive system. Well, I don't mean normal Gates by belt drive system. There's just a lot of belts now, and I haven't done my research in like 5 years. But there's a lot of different belts. So there we go. All right, so we got our Gates belt drive system in, and it's not perfectly aligned, and that's probably why we're using a CDX belt. So I, for some reason, thought it had to be perfectly aligned, but then I noticed that the Alfine 11-speed Shimano hub, you had to use a CDX belt because it's got that channel on the inside. And we did make a mistake. We had to go back and fix because of shifting. So those 2 red dots, when we put those in, we had to turn it to have it connect. Yeah, we got the red dots to be straight again on the connection. Now, one of the things we did is flip the hub here to give us 1/2 mil of extra room outboard. But that's about all the adjustments you can make because the internal or the front sprocket here is as close to the frame as we can get it. So we use no spacers on the hub. The Shimano hub here for the front of the system, but it is quiet, it is smooth, and it actually feels really, really good. So now we just got to get the rest of the bike put together. So our bike build is now nearly complete. We went ahead and went through the process of putting on the brakes, installing the belt drive system, and then working through some small little issues that we had in a custom build, which is sometimes what happens when you do custom build bikes. And I'll walk through some of the things that we had to do. But the only thing we got left to do is a kickstand, which is on order. We got to figure out how to fit a bottom double kickstand here. And we have to get some fenders from Peter White Cycles. And our customer wants Peter White our fenders from Peter White, so we're working with them to get the fenders on, but we're getting really close. So let's take a look at the specific components and how we got everything on and how it fit. So we have our Gates belt drive system here installed, and we got the calculations. We wanted to go pretty much the lowest gear ratio that we could, because that's what he had on there before. And then we got that belt nice and aligned. with the front. Now, we got lucky here. This is one of the things we got lucky on because we only have 1 mil of gap right here. If I had used a spacer to throw off my belt alignment, so it was pretty lucky that we had enough room here. We didn't have to make any adjustments. Now, I don't think it's terribly bad to be maybe 3 or 4 millimeters off on chain line, just increase the wear, but we did get lucky there. Now with the shifting component with the Shimano Alfine system, let me show you what we did for that as we mounted that up and got it installed. So up here is the Shimano Alfine 11-speed shifter. Now one of the issues I had is normally you use the adjuster here on the outside of the shifter, but we went ahead and put an inline adjuster right here just to help us tighten that line up, to really kind of clear up the shifting, make it nice and smooth, because when you come around to the back side, it is kind of somewhat difficult to get this exactly where you need it, and the inline shifter really did help. So getting everything on, as you can see, with this system here from Marino, we can drop the wheel off if we have a flat tire. We don't have to undo any of this stuff for the alignment. Just the wheel comes off with the bolts on either side. We drop that, we can change a flat, and then put it back on, remount it in, and it should be at the right tension. We did use the app to get the right hertz on the tension for the belt, which is kind of amazing to do. And then we also have that cutout right here for the belt to go through when we need to replace the belt. The front and rear racks hooked up no problems. And the front brakes, no real issues hooking up the Avid front mechanical disc brakes. Along with the front rack, wish it was it's a little bit, like maybe a couple degrees off. It looks off here because of the way the bike's sitting on the stand, but it is pretty level. So that worked well. Now let's go through some of the issues that we had. So one of the first things we had to work through is with the mounting system here where we mount the wheel. We had to use a wolf tooth mount system to get this brake system on. And the problem is using a 160 or 180, getting this brake on the right position with the right depth on the disc was very, very difficult. We couldn't find anything that really worked well. And so what we did is we took a 180 and we actually cut the components off the bracket mount system and used them more like spacers and then bolted them on here. Now, not a huge fan of using bolts on brakes because they can rattle loose. So use a lock washer and thread lock on these bolts to keep them nice and secure. Maybe difficult to get them off, but you know, if you use bolts, anybody's ever used bolts on a brake system and bolt it down, you know you gotta use thread lock because it'll rattle loose. So we worked through that issue. You can kind of see where we had a saw. We cut and grinded and smoothed this out to get our correct spacing on the back brake system. And the other issue we have to work through is using the Cane Creek Thud Buster. So I did all the measurements from the center of the crank. So center of the crank up to where the stem's at, pretty much use that across to get the seat. Remember where the seat was, use that up here to the seat, up here to the handlebar position. So it's like my 3 points of reference to get the bicycle back. It's like a triangle to get the bicycle back to where the user had it set up before. I use that because that's what I've used before. Like when I went to the UCI in 2018 to do some bike events and stuff and ride a bike, the UCI mechanics, that's really all they wanted to know was what was the height from the center of the crank up to your seat, and then what was the distance here from your stem to the tip of your seat, and then generally speaking, you know, what was the height from the crank up here. So I just copied that from the UCI, the mechanics at the UCI, and that's how I normally take measurements on somebody's bicycle. The problem is that we're about 1.5 centimeters too high, and the Cane Creek Thud Buster does not come down any further. As you can see here, you have all this extra depth here that you cannot move, and that's as low as it goes. Now, what I'm hoping happens here is because this is like more of a shock seat post, and I'll show you here, that when our customer sits on it, it's actually going to lower down and we'll gain back that 1.5 to 2 centimeters of range. So We are going to look at swapping out to a stiffer insert here for the Cane Creek Thud Buster, but we may get back that 1 to 2 centimeters when they sit down actually on the bicycle. So me and Aaron really enjoyed kind of doing a custom job here, and I love doing this kind of work. Like I said before, we take the measurements of the bicycle, we pass them on to Marino, and then what Marino does, and we change anything anybody wants to change. Like the Surly disc trucker had the mounts for the cables up top. Our customer wanted the mounts on the bottom, so we did this amazing mounting system on the bottom, which is fantastic. Keeps all the cables clear of any bags or anything they want to put on there. We kept the bottom bracket up higher, made sure it fit 26-inch wheels, but then also have the option to fit 700 down the road if we want to. So we got lots of options here and enough clearance for fenders and all that stuff. If I had to do it again, the only thing I got lucky on, I think, was using a 72 millimeter shell for the bottom bracket. I probably, next time I do it again, I'll use a 68 millimeter and then use a couple, maybe use a 2.5 spacer on the drive side. That would be a much safer option, just because we are just got 1 mil of clearance for the crank against the chain stays at the bottom. Yeah, but other than that, it's a fantastic build. The paint job's wonderful. Really easy to hook up, and test rode this bicycle, and the Shimano Alfine 11-speed hub is so smooth. The gear ratio that we picked for this matches almost perfectly, I think, the old chain gear ratio that they had on their bicycle before, and it's just nearly virtually quiet when you ride it. So not only that, you don't have to worry about a lot of maintenance with the Gates belt system. Not a lot of cleaning, you just spray it off, and this is just a fantastic build, and I cannot wait this week. We're going to pull the customer in and have them actually ride this and see if we use this medium or a more stiff insert here for the Cane Creek Thud Buster, because like I said, we're about 1.5 to 2 mils higher on the seat than he had on a stock bike from the center of the crank up to the seat height. So other than that, we did this pretty affordable. If anybody was really interested in this is like a 5-month build for us to go through this process. You come into the shop or you ship your bicycle to me, and then we do a video call and figure out exactly what you're looking for. And then I'll see if I can get you deals on parts and stuff. I charge $295 for the build, labor costs, because it really, half the time is me just figuring out your dimensions and stuff for your bicycle, and then the other half of the time building this doesn't really take a lot of time. Besides working through a couple of things, it's not just 3 to 5 hours at the most putting it all together. And yeah, so thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to stay up to date. I got a Monster Grava build coming that I'm going to start working on this week, where I'm going to take a Marino hardtail frame, talk to you about my theories on using hardtail mountain bike frames and how I think they should be set up. And it's a good conversation to have. I may be wrong, but really just talking about like how you ride a hardtail mountain bike with flat bars versus how you would ride where your geometry would sit with drop bars, and how I believe that if you had a large size hardtail mountain bike frame, you wanted to turn into a Monster Grava frame, you might be better off going with the size medium lower to shrink that effective top tube length. And yeah, we'll get into that there. So again, thanks for watching, everybody, and until I do another video, bye.